There we go. Just since we're at the top of the hour, I know some more people are probably going to trickle in, but want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I will start us off here. Welcome and thanks everyone for coming. My name is Lisa Jordan. I'm the Managing Director of the IEA, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Charlotte Executives Association, where I've been for about 12 years now. Happy to see some new faces and some returning faces as well. This, of course, is our monthly IEA webinar. We offer these once a month. They are hosted by other IEA members throughout the US and Canada and attended by IEA members. So everyone on this call is usually a member of an executive association. If you have a great topic that might be of value to other business owners, certainly reach out to me in the chat and let me know, and we'll follow up with you about hosting a webinar in the future. If you have to pop out for any reason, we are recording the call, so it'll be posted on the website usually by the end of the week. Also, you can go back and watch any topics that you've missed. We have covered a variety of conversations in the last 2 years, so encourage you to go back and look through those. So it's now my pleasure to introduce Mark Baker. Mark is the mortgage maker, but we're not talking about mortgages today. Mark's with the Las Vegas Executive Association and has been a residential mortgage loan originator in Vegas for over 20 years. And I just found out that he also lived in Charlotte. And Chris, he was a golf pro at Piper Glen. What are the chances of that? So super small world. In his free time, Mark enjoys spending time with his 19-year-old twin boys, who Mark says are killing it in life. They sound like some pretty awesome kids. He travels to bull riding events. He actually owns a real bucking bulls. He plays golf, as I mentioned, was a golf pro, and spends time with young adults to talk about what you didn't learn in school but need to know in the real world. I think we could all learn a thing or two from Mark. So Mark, thank you for sharing of your time today. And without further ado, take it away.
Thank you, Lisa. First of all, guys and gals, I'm flattered that you all thought that this was good enough content for you to come on here. I've got to kind of tell you where this came from. A few months ago, our executive director retired, but before she did, back in like September, October last year, she asked me after a meeting. She said, "We've got an opening coming up for a classification talk slash craft talk. I guess it's said as other associations." And she said, "Would you talk about how to do LVEA, which is Las Vegas Executives Association?" I said, "Well, sure. What does that mean? How to do it?" And she said, just tell people what you do. You've been here for 3 years, and you're a great member. Everybody loves you. Just tell people what you do. And I said, sure, I'd be more than happy to do that for you. So I made this commitment to talk about how to do the Executive Association. And I started to write what I do and how I do it. And I came up with about 20 words and thought, I don't know what to do here. This is the oddest thing I've ever been asked. And just like everybody else, I do a lot of public speaking, but it's not my favorite thing. And so I started getting real nervous. So I contacted some of our past presidents, some of the other people in our group, and said, guys, Terry's asked me to do this. Throw me a bone. Tell me what I need to do. And a few different people gave me some thoughts and ideas. I guess there was a talk on this 20 years ago, which a gentleman shared his notes with me, which was very helpful. And then one of our past presidents said, Mark, just tell them your best practices. Just tell them what you do. Tell them how you do it and what you do. And I said, well, I can do that. He goes, just do that and don't worry about it. So what you're getting ready to hear is exactly what I've done. And for some of you that are executive directors in your area, hopefully this is going to be helpful for some of your people. And I'm going to cover the basics on what I did. And then I'm going to get to the meat, and what I call is the magic. So before I get started, I just want to throw this thing out. And I mentioned this to Lisa yesterday. You probably see me sweating here because this always gets me excited. But I remember years and years ago, there was a guy named Plato who one of his quotes was, he said, a wise man speaks when he has something to say. A fool speaks when they have to say something. And it's always one of my biggest concerns about what I had to say. Was it going to be valuable for people to listen to it and for people to record it and put it up for people in the future? So that said and done, here's my best shot at what happened. I got invited to come to this organization. I showed up and they said, Mark, get involved. And I said, no problem. I got no problem doing that. So I showed up to meetings. Number one, first thing that they did, we came up and said, we have an attendance requirement. You have to show up to 50%. I said, that's not a problem for me. If I'm coming, I'm coming. In 4 years, I might have missed 4 or 5 meetings. It just doesn't make sense to me to be a member of an organization and not get the value out of it. Tremendous amount of people. We've got over 100 people in our organization, and being the best in class, it's the type of people that I want to hang out with. So that's number one. Number two, I showed up early and I still show up early. I want to stand out in front of the door sometimes and greet people. I want to get to know people's names. I want them to know who I am. That was a big thing for me, and it still is today, 4 years later. The next thing I'm a little bit, sometimes my language isn't really good, but I'm a little ballsy, I guess you should say. I'm the first guy that sat down at a table that was the statesman, so to speak. You could tell that this table was reserved for the guys that have been around for 30 or 40 years. And I just walked up in my second meeting and said, hey, is this seat taken? They all looked at me kind of funny and said, sure, go ahead. So I did. And it really broke the ice. To me, that's important. Sit at different tables so you can talk to people. We have committees in Las Vegas. I don't know that everybody does that, but we do. And somebody was kind enough to ask me to be on the leads committee right away. Not having a clue what to do or how that worked, I said, sure, I'll be on the leads committee. Shortly thereafter, little did I know, he resigned from the group because he had a conflict on something else, and he moved to a different company. And then the leads committee said, you're our leads committee chairman. And I said, I'm brand new. What do I do? So it's been interesting. From that, I'm going to kind of tell you what else. I go to the social events anytime that I can. We made wine within our group. I don't drink wine, but I went because it's been a great time to sit there and network and get to know people and find out about their lives and their wine experiences and their businesses. It's been incredible. We've had 2 cigar events. I don't smoke cigars. I don't smoke. And the last thing I want to do is hang out in a smoky room. But I've done it twice, and it's been unforgettable. A couple of the conversations that I've had, I almost had to throw the clothes away when I went home in my mind, but it was a great event. We have a lot of open houses. If you could take a guess, it's always a good idea. I took my teenage kids, right? I wanted my teenage kids to see the type of people that I associate with, right? To edify me to my children, but number 2, for my kids to ask some questions and so that they could be successful, which has been unbelievably, it was a good move. Let's just put it that way. When we go to the meetings, one of the things that I highly recommend that always kind of bothers me, kind of doesn't, but it does, you got to listen to the meeting. One of the things that I do, I always keep a notepad with me. Always. I'm going to tell you guys about this because I think this is so important. We all have one of these things, right? And when we're talking to people and we take notes, if we take notes with our phone, they don't know if we're typing, texting, emailing, whatever. When the speaker's up there, there's a lot of people doing that. If I'm paying attention, it's shocking the amount of stuff that I learn so that I can now refer that person business. When we give classification talks or craft talks, I recommend doing it right away. I did it like 2 months in, 3 months in. I'm a mortgage professional. I'm thinking, you know what? I can talk about credit. I could talk about the mortgage process, how I deal with 22 people every transaction. I'm really just the ringleader that tries to keep it all together. I could educate people a little bit on the real estate market. So people need to know what's going on in the marketplace, and any information that I can share that's valuable, I think is just, it's invaluable for people. A lot of people that I see give a classification talk, which I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes, they get up there and they try to sell. And I've not quite figured that out because to me, I'm looking to educate our fellow members. I want them to be smarter in the marketplace after we leave. When they speak, I want to be smarter in the marketplace. And to me, that's where you're going to get business later, which I'll talk about in a second. The more that we can educate people with our craft talk, the more we give value, the more people are going to enjoy us. The next thing I did, as I did before, is I would highly recommend that you all brand yourself. I am known as Mark Baker, the mortgage maker. It's kind of catchy. It's kind of cute. Everybody that comes in, they shake my hand. I shake their hand. I'm usually the first one up to them. I want people to know who I am and what I do. I don't need to tell the details of getting a mortgage. If you want to buy a house, you need a mortgage. If you need a cash out refinance, you need a mortgage. Who are you going to trust, right? I want you to think of me. But the reality is, if you brand yourself, it helps people remember you. We've got a gentleman in our group. His name is Brent. His name is Brent Wright, the humble engineer. Everybody knows this guy as the humble engineer. He just spends his time making our lives better. We got a guy, his name is Gene Cimarelli with First Choice Tree Service. Always your best choice. Everybody knows what Gene does. We've got a lady named Debbie Howe, love her to death. She owns a bunch of Pizza Huts. So it's Debbie Howe, the pizza gal. Those people, you could ask anybody in our group, everybody knows who they are right off the top of their head. You might look at somebody else and you can't quite come up with their name, but those people that are branded themselves, everybody knows. I think it's really important. The more you sit down and you talk to people and you listen to what they've got to say, the more you can go back and check on them, the more you can call them after their classification talk and say, great talk. You know, I got a question about this. Hey, I might have a referral for you on this. Those are things that we can do. That's how I got involved in the Executive Association. Okay. So that's my brief 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever scenario. Now I'm going to share with you Mark Baker's best practices, which is how I generate business. And as you can tell, I always get nervous about stuff like this because a lot of this is just off the cuff. Guys, this is how Mark Baker does LVEA. I've never looked at our Executive Association, never have I looked at it and said, hey, how do I get business out of these people? I don't quite understand the mentality there. I get it. We're all in this business to get more business. But I looked at this, everybody in this room, they're the cream of the crop. They're the best in class of doing what they do in our metropolitan statistical area. They all have business. They're all successful. Quite frankly, the last thing that they really need is me to refer them a new deal, a boy to buy a new car, somebody that wants to, get pest control, somebody that needs a plumber. Do they like it? Yes. Do they make money? Yes. But is that the purpose of it? In my mind, in my tiny little pea brain, all I saw was this is a large pool of the best in class in each different business category in Las Vegas that I now have in my quiver, right? I picture me, pulling this arrow out. No matter what you need, call me. I got you. I know somebody. Mark Baker's always got a guy, so to speak. And when you look at it that way, you step back and ask yourself the old JFK thing, right? I was just being born when he was president, but I remember later always hearing about his talk where he says, listen, ask not what the country can do for you, but ask what you can do for the country. In our organization, I think that we all need to be looking at what we can do for the other members in our organization. How can we be a trusted resource? That's all I focus on. I need to be a trusted resource for every one of my clients calling me to get a mortgage. For everybody I see in the marketplace, I've got a trusted resource. Somebody in our Executive Association, I've got it. I got it taken care of because I know somebody. And it's not like I know somebody, I know the somebody in that business. So to me, that's where the magic is. Ask yourself for your executive association, what you can do for them. This is the biggest key for being successful. How do you add value to the group? People, here's the thing. In sales, people do business with people that they know, they like, and then they trust. Know, like, and trust. They don't do business with people that they don't trust. Most don't do people that they don't know, and they certainly don't do business with people they don't like. So our job in my mind, is to go out there and create in my group 100 friends that I can be their friend and I can be their trusted resource for anybody that needs anything financially. I got a guy. If it's mortgages, I got you. If it's buying a car, I've got you. If we constantly ask ourselves, how do we become that person? To become that, it's to know what everybody else does. What I do is every day, I try to take somebody to breakfast, lunch, or dinner as much as I can. Breakfast is my best because it's inexpensive. We can do it before the phones ring. I'm a single guy, so I can do dinner. I'm recently divorced, so that's an easy thing for me. Some people, they can't do that, obviously. And what I do is I go out with them with no agenda. I constantly invite people to go out and say, hey, let's go out and catch lunch. Let's go out and catch breakfast. No agenda. No agenda, because I make sure I stress that, because most people are thinking he's trying to raise money for a project. He's got a charity he wants to peddle. He wants to sell me something. That's the last thing that I want. What I want to do is I want to find out about other people. I want to find out about their relationships, their kids, their health, their kids' health, their background, their personal problems, business, hobbies, opportunities. If you can do that, not only are you an addition for them, for somebody to talk to, especially in time of need, but you become a trusted person that they could bounce ideas off of. Maybe I want to bounce an idea off of them at some point later, but you get to know them. And what happens is this know, like, and trust. All of a sudden, they know me from LVEA. They know me because I show up every Wednesday morning for breakfast. They like me because I said, hey, let's go break bread sometime. Now, when they tell you about their life, when they tell you about where they met their spouse, when they tell you about what brought them to Las Vegas, when they tell you about their child that's struggling, or their kid's marriage that's struggling, or quite frankly, maybe some of their marriages are struggling or something, you get a chance to get involved with people. To me, this is just me, I'm a little bit of a weirdo. I think that part of our life is to just love people. In my church, we talk about loving God and loving people. I've always been a people lover, so it's easy for me to want to be involved in people's lives. These are people with the same values as mine, the same friends, the same business acumen. Those are the friends that I want. Those are the people that I say, dude, if you need somebody at 2 a.m. because you broke down 2.5 hours from here, I'm your guy. Call me, I'll help. And I mean it. I truly mean it. But when you sit down with them and start talking to them, you've got to know that you always have a notepad, right? You don't want to pick up your phone and start typing notes in there because they don't know what you're doing. You got to follow up with them. Maybe they've got a big talk on a Tuesday at noon in front of a bunch of people, and there's going to be sweating over Zoom, right? I've had 2 people text me today, say, hey, good luck on your talk, because they know it's going to be recorded, and who knows how many times that this might be seen. And I think about these things. You follow up with people about that. You make small promises. Hey, listen, I know of somebody that does that. Let me get you a name and a number. Let me make a phone call on that. I just had a friend recently said, man, we need a counselor for our kids. They need a marriage counselor, but it needs to be a Christian counselor. I got you. I got that. Really. And so I'm in the middle of putting things together. I'm always in the middle of everything, not just mortgages, but everything. And when you do that, you become such a trusted advisor. It's incredible. One of the things that I always do, always, been a bad habit, been a good habit. A gentleman in Charlotte, North Carolina taught me this. This guy was the executive director of the Charlotte Hornets when they first opened up. I'll never forget it. Every time he walked through the golf shop on his way out, he would say, Marky, he always called me Marky. He was the only person in my life who's ever called me Marky. Marky, is there anything I can do for you? And I used to think, I do things for you. You're a member here, right? I'm one of the peons. You're one of the rich people. I have always used that. Is there ever anything I can do for you? And if somebody says something, I pull out my notepad and I write it down. And guess what? I do it. And all of a sudden, in the back of their mind, in the, I don't know what cortex it is, they think in a little bit of their mind, man, I could trust that guy. I didn't say you have to trust me. I just did what I said there was going to do. Here's the kicker, ladies and gentlemen, that people I don't think understand, that this is what I saw day one. When I went in and I saw this 100 people, I thought, man, if I can get to be friends with these people and I can refer these people out, right? These are owners and CEOs and CFOs. Not only are my people going to get taken care of, but everybody is going to be saying, hey, what a great guy Mark Baker is. There's 100 people in our executive association. In my mind, I have 100 salespeople in Las Vegas. Anytime somebody says mortgage, Mark Baker, the mortgage baker. 100 salespeople. For those of you that have businesses where you've got salespeople, think about it. If you had 100 people paying them $50,000 a year, that's a $5 million a year VIG. I mean, it's free. And it's free because you're out there adding value to them, telling them that you're a trusted person that they can trust, and you're going to take a referral from them, and you're going to hold their hand, and you're going to make sure that they don't get taken advantage of, and you're going to follow up, and you're going to be there when there's a problem. There's this thing called the law of reciprocity. Everybody in business has heard about it. I hate it. I do. I hate the words law of reciprocity, and I'm going to tell you why. To me, I think it should be the law of retaliation. Don't think of retaliation as a negative connotation. Think of it this way. Let's say there's a guy in my group named Dave, and I see Dave at a restaurant, and we were talking, and one of the guys with me was talking about something, and I hook up Dave, and Dave gets a deal out of it. He makes a couple bucks. Dave, in the back of his mind, he feels like he owes me, right? So next thing Dave finds a deal, finds anybody talking about mortgage, he's like, hey, whoa. Trust me, I got your guy. No matter what, you call this guy and tell him I told you to call. If I do this to you, you feel like you got to do this to me. If I do this, you do this to me, I feel like you got to do this to me. There's one guy here in town, to make a long story short, I was at a restaurant here called Michael's, which is the most expensive, nicest restaurant in Las Vegas. I'm there with a few people, and he and I are on this tit for tat thing, right? This law of reciprocity. He's got me a couple seats to some bull riding events. I got him some seats to a couple Raiders games. Big difference in cost, by the way. He has referred me a couple of mortgage people. I referred him an event. Next thing you know, I show up at Michael's. I see the guy eating dinner there, which was kind of a fluke because it's a small room, not many tables. When the time comes for my check, there's a blank piece of paper. It's a $1,500 dinner. And now, between you all and me, I am just laying for this guy, right? I know that now I feel like I need to do something else for him. What if you had 100 people like that? I cannot tell you how much money I have made off of that relationship. I don't know. I can't put a dollar amount to it. Probably 40, 50,000 bucks in the last 2 years. But he's a good guy. He knows me. I know him. I trust him. He trusts me. You know, I take care of his wife and kids when they call. They need something, dude, he knows he can call me. Here's what happens. There's laws in the universe. In the law of retaliation, here's what it means to me. We always earn money or accolades or whatever. It's always in direct proportion to the service that we give. It's as you sow, so shall you reap. It's karma. It's the cause and effect. It's the boomerang theory. I saw something years ago about this guy that had a boomerang, and it was in Australia or wherever, and he could throw this boomerang, and he was unbelievable. He could throw it out, then he'd turn around and he'd catch it. I'm thinking, that's kind of crazy. Throw it and he'd catch it. So I got a boomerang and I threw it. Then I had to run 100 yards to pick it up, right? What happens is, if you practice enough, with the boomerang, right? If you practice your people skills and just loving on people, guys, it becomes like a boomerang. And sometimes you can't set the buckets out fast enough to catch all the money with the business. But it's not because I went out and said, hey, do you have a deal for me? Hey, do you know anybody looking to buy a house? Do you know anybody that needs a mortgage? I have never said that in 20 some years, but yet I've been marked as one of the top mortgage people in the United States. It's all about doing the right thing just because it's the right thing to do, and doing for others. The more we educate, the more we're on top of it. We should all, in my mind, give business. We're always looking to give business. I'm always looking to put more out there, and it's going to come back and hit me regardless every time. And it's easy to do that in the executive association because I got 100 people who were the best in class at their chosen field. It's crazy what happens when we refer somebody. So that's really the main gist of it. To add on to that, and I don't have a lot more, but to add on to that, I'm going to tell you about something that happened 4 months ago, 5 months ago, when I started thinking about this talk. I was sitting with one of our past presidents, and I remember we talked about this lady named Mary Ann. She's in our organization. She's a past client. She's a CFO of a fairly large gaming company here in town, just salt of the earth. I sat next to her one day and gave her my talk, right? Hey, so tell me your story, right? One of the things that I do is say, tell me your story. People will tell you where they met, they met their spouse, where they're from, how they got there, how they grew up. You just got to wind them up a little bit and let them go. You can learn so much and you can ask questions. And when they walk away, here's typically what they say. Man, we need to do this again. You're one of the greatest conversationalists I've ever sat down with. And I'm like, most of the time I didn't say much. I just wound it up a little bit. But I found out about that individual. So I'm talking to this guy and he mentions something. And I said, hey, Mary Ann. And he said, that's a quality individual. That's a quality gal. I'm taking a deep breath here because when I did this talk for our organization, I literally get emotional about it. And I remember thinking, yeah, boy, she really is. She is quality, man. Character, integrity, caring, thoughtful, prompt, unbelievable. It wasn't a day or two later, I was talking to one of our members on the phone. And we were talking about this gentleman in our group. His name is Ira. He used to own an airline business, private flights or whatever. And now he does some business coaching and stuff. It's my understanding. He's got quite an interesting past. And he brought up Ira, and I said, hey, well, last time I talked to Ira, and this was a whole other individual, says, you know what? That's a quality individual. And I remember when they said it, I froze thinking, what do people say about Mark Baker behind my back? Isn't that what we all want? I want people to say, hey, and do you know that Mark Baker, the mortgage maker guy? I want people to say, what a quality individual, right? I sent him somebody, he took him down the road, did something totally different other than what they wanted. It was a better deal for them and their family. He showed up at that funeral, he did this. And when he said he made time to do this, I want to be on that list. And I'm the guy that always said, man, I hope people are talking behind my back because you know what? I can handle it. I don't care what they're saying. All I can do is be the best that I can. But when I started hearing this quality individual thing about 6-8 months ago, I remember thinking, how do I get that tag? How do I get that ribbon, right? How do I know that when it's all over and I'm laying there in the grave thinking, man, you know why he was so successful in life? Because he was a quality individual. And I think the more that we strive to be a quality individual and love on people, I don't think that we can count the amount of business that comes to us, if that makes sense. 5 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that, I remember I was in a meeting and with probably 10 business people. And everybody in the mortgage space was dying, literally. It was bad. They were, parking cars, waiting tables, selling cars. I mean, they were looking for other ways to recreate themselves. And I remember one of the guys said, Mark, you don't seem to be complaining a bit. And I'm like, we're doing actually really well. It's not going to be a record year, but it's going to be one of our top 5. And so one of the other guys, it was like the E.F. Hutton moment, right? It got really quiet because a guy across the table heard us and he said, Mark, tell us what it is that you got going on. How is it in your business? You're busy. Either you're lying or you know the secret. And I said, guys, you're putting me on the spot. He said, yeah, we are. And it was a group that was, these were some pretty big players, way bigger than I was, by the way, way bigger, make a lot more money, way more successful. And quite frankly, I said, guys, here's the deal. I had this, it was a religious experience with my church and everything, but here the bottom line is it come down to this. A few years ago, I decided this quality individual thing, before I even thought about that, what is it that we're trying to do in life, right? We're trying to do the right thing at all times for one reason, because it's the right thing to do. And when it hit me, and I actually went and talked to a pastor about it, and I talked to a couple other business leaders about it, and they said, Mark, I think if you'll do that, you're going to be surprised at your marriage, your kids, and your relationships, and your business. And it didn't quite work with the marriage, but everything else, it worked unbelievably well. And here I stand 22 years later in the mortgage business, set a new record again last year. A lot of people are really struggling right now. Some mortgage businesses are starting to go out of business, but yet we're thumping it. What I've been able to talk to my kids about being a quality individual, and say, guys, whatever you do the right thing for one reason, simply because it's the right thing to do, for no other reason. If you do that, you're going to find that there's more opportunities out there than you can shake a stick at. And here my kids are 19 years old. They'll be 20 here in a couple months. They're both making a ton of money, got savings, got perfect credit, don't owe anybody anything, and they're looking for their next thing. They've got this thing, they're going to commit to a job for a year. I think they're going to go work for one of my partners in the bull riding business because they want to live Yellowstone for a year. But they're in a position where they can do that. And that, my executive association friends, is really all I do. That's my best practices. I take that, and from that, when I get a lead or a referral from somebody, I never have liked the word lead, because to me, it's a referral, not a lead. Anytime that we engage in business with somebody, guys, I treat it like it's gold. Whenever I send business to somebody, by the way, I Google them, and I always put a 5-star review, because they're a friend. And you know what? I wouldn't refer them unless I did business with them or unless I trusted them. So that's number one. Number two, once I get a referral, I never take it for granted. I want to make sure that I'm personally calling them, not one of my production partners. I look at it as an at bat. What that means, for those of you that are not baseball people, which I'm not, by the way, but I did play when I was little, an at bat is an opportunity to get up and get a hit, right? To win the game, you need the most points, except for in golf, but you're trying to get the most points. So as many times as you get up to bat, that's your only opportunity to get a hit. So when I get a referral, to me, I look at it purely as an at bat. I need to earn the business. Just because Joe or Mary or Steve or Dave referred the deal to me doesn't mean that I need to take that for granted that it's my deal. To me, I have an opportunity. I've got an at bat. From there, I'm going to do all I can. I'm going to thank the referrer immediately. I'm going to take the referrer, easy for me to say, and treat them as though my best friend. I'm going to follow up with my staff constantly throughout the transaction. I'm going to hold their hand. I'm going to show up personally when they least expect it. In my business, everybody goes to a title company to sign their loan documents at the end. I literally get in my car, drive across town, because most of these people I've never met, just talk to them over the phone. I walk in. It's one of the reasons I wear a shirt and tie and cufflinks every day, because I only get that one opportunity to make a first impression in person. But I'll show up to say, hey, I just wanted to go over the numbers with you. I told you I'd do it, and I just wanted to do it in person. People absolutely, it's like I'm a celebrity when I show up. It's crazy. Excuse me. And I know that phone call goes back to Dave that referred him to me. And they say, Dave, man, what? I can't believe you referred this guy to us. From that, I feel like that's where my next business deal is coming from. The more we show up, personally, check in on people, the more the business gets. We've got a guy in our organization. I'll never forget this. This guy, here's the epitome of an executive association member. And maybe you all do this. Nobody's seen do it like this. This guy had a few dealerships, automobile dealerships in town. He sold them out to a very big player, a nationwide chain. And after I was in the executive association for a little bit, I referred somebody. I said, hey, Bob, I got a buddy, blah, blah, blah. They want to buy a car. Okay, what number do I give him? He said, well, give him my cell phone number. And I said, okay. Well, he does marketing for them, and he does a bunch of statistics and different things. He's not involved in the day-to-day business, but they've got, I don't know how many dealerships here in town, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15. I have no idea. But I said, here's the deal. Then I called the client, said, hey, here's the deal. Call Bob. He's waiting for you. And I gave Bob their number, and I hooked him up. And Bob called this person personally. Now, this is a guy who doesn't, he doesn't need the business. He's not getting a spiff. He's not a car salesman. He calls him, are you financing? Are you paying cash? Do you have a trade-in? What are you looking for? Why are you looking for it? Do you have a specific color? Give me some details. What do you, can you qualify for financing? Okay, perfect. I'm going to call Joe Blow. And so he would call, and he called the general manager of the automobile dealership. So he just wants to buy a car. But he called the general manager. His name was Caesar. So he says, Caesar, I've got this client. They're coming in. I need you to take care of them. And so the client calls. They talk to Caesar directly, the general manager. He says, when can you come in and meet with me? They walked in, got walked into the corner office. And then he pulls the sales manager and a salesman. Hey, come over here. This is what they're looking for. Let me know if you have any questions. They're going to take good care of you. In the meantime, Bob is calling them. Are you looking at cars? Did you have any questions? Are they taking good care of you? Yes, I think we're good. Then it will call me once you get to financing. They've already let the financing manager know that this person's coming in. And I'm sitting here scratching my head thinking, are you kidding me? These people were treated like royalty. Nobody gets this experience in the car business unless you're best friends with the owner. Then, after the transaction was over, they're in the financing. He calls and says, let me look at the numbers to make sure they're right. Who does this, right? After they're done, they leave. They got their car. He calls and says, are you happy? Are you an owner? Thanks for the business. In the meantime, this guy calls me and says, dude, who do you know? Is this the godfather? Yes, it is the godfather of the car business. Guys, what would it be like if every referral we had got treated like that? How much more business would we have? Now, I don't know how many cars a year Bob sells, but I know there's 108 people that send him 2, 3, 4, 5 people every year, and they all buy cars, and they all get incredibly good deals, and people would do anything for Bob, if that makes sense. And from that, Bob's business has more business than they know what to do with on top of it. So real briefly, there's a guy named Earl Nightingale. I'll never forget. He talked about cause and effect. He talked about what goes around when it comes around. I remember him using an example. We walk up to a wood burning furnace and we say, give me heat. And the wood burning furnace is saying, no, give me wood and fire, and then I can give you heat. And what we all try to do is we're all trying to get business, when in my mind, we should all be trying to refer business. So that's really my deal. That's my best practices. I know I'm probably way earlier, but that's my thing in a nutshell. To end my time today, I'd like to just pose 2 questions, guys. Number one, are you a quality individual? I ask myself that every morning when I wake up. And if not, how could you become one, right? How could you have all the people in your organization saying, dude, what a quality individual? Number two, show up every week and ask yourself, how can I be the biggest asset to this group of people? How can I bring more value to the association members? To me, that, my friends, is how we get business. So that's all I've got. I hope that I proved Plato right. I hope that I had something to say versus just wanted to say something, but I'm open to any questions or thoughts or any ideas that you guys might have. I'd love your feedback.
Thanks so much, Mark. That was really helpful and nice to hear from a member of kind of some, best practices for the meetings. I love when you said you don't drink wine and went to the wine events, and you don't smoke cigars and go to the cigar events, because I think that's important. People tend to think, what's in it for me, right? And make their decisions each day on what's in it for them, and not flipping the coin. So appreciate your insightfulness. I think everyone probably took away some little tidbits here. Does anyone have any questions for Mark or anything else to add? I know there's, Mark's only been in Las Vegas execs for 3-4 years, and I know there's some members that I'm seeing here on the screen that have been a part of their group for 20-30 plus years. So curious to hear your feedback.
Yeah, this is Ed Norton. I'm in the LVEA with Mark, Mark Baker, the mortgage banker. What he said to you all is exactly how he operates, okay? Because we've done stuff together before. And I know Dave Cabal is on here and Trevor from Next Gen, and everybody will say that what he does is exactly what he does. And he really is a great guy, and it's really an honor to know him. Good job again, Mark.
Thanks, my friend. Appreciate you.
Anyone else? George, do you have anything you'd like to add? Christine, some of these more seasoned members?
George from Seattle, Washington. What I found too is to kind of add on to Mark. I'm one for sending out cards, birthday cards, congratulations, on their anniversary cards and that. And recently I came up with some pads, and they say, think gratitude. Now, I'm on to my 6th printing of these. I've gone so far through, I've gone through 5,000 of these. Now I include a couple of these with the cards, with packets, whatever. But again, people are thinking of me as the gratitude guy. So anytime that you can be out there being different than the others, and like you were saying, Mark, being there early, mingling with people, especially guests. If you see someone in the corner and you know they may be uncomfortable, well, bring them in and introduce them to people, and it works, and it's nice also for the older members who become very comfortable in the association to kind of reignite that. I've been in charge of the mentoring for, 10 or 12 years, and we have almost 100 members, and we're starting to rebuild. We did lose a few, but we have real strength, and I've been involved with execs 28 years. I'm glad to see Christine Cromwell and we go way back with IEA. We're both past presidents and have been on the board for years. So all of this stuff works.
Thanks, George. That means a lot to me, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Anyone else? Any other questions for Mark?
I just wanted to, this is Christine. I just wanted to say hi to George and Lisa and Rick Thurlow. Yes, I've been part of my association, Sonoma County Execs, for 32 years, I believe. And with George on the board of IEA and past president, great experience. I want to encourage everyone to attend the conferences, the IEA conference when you can. It's the best way to reach out, like Mark says, and make friends across the world. And it is so effective and so personal. Please don't be afraid of it. It is time and money well spent. So
Yes, thank you for that.
Thank
Plug,
you.
Christine. Actually, an email went out today. You should have all received it about the IEA Business Summit coming up in Vancouver in September. And I know I will be there and would love to see many of you as well. IEA is a welcoming, friendly bunch. And I always enjoy my time in person and on Zoom when I get to spend it with IEA folks. All right, well, with that, we will wrap up here today. Thank you all for attending. And if you want to share this with anyone else in your execs, like I said, it'll be posted on the IEA website right where you went to register. That's where it'll be posted probably by the end of the week.
Perfect. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Great job.
Take care, everybody. Have a
Thanks,
good
Mark.
week.
Great job
Thanks,
again,
Mark.
Mark.
Thank you,
Nice to meet
guys.
Thanks,
everyone.
Mark. Thanks, Lisa.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.